Alyssa Tiger, and today I'm going to be speaking about breastfeeding in public. Moore, Minnesota, two women, Stephanie Bouchon and Mary Davis, head to the local pool to cool off on a hot summer day, enjoying their day with the kids at the pool, just like everyone else there. Stephanie Bouchon brought her 3-month-old son, who became hungry while they were at the pool. Just like any other time, Stephanie began to nurse her flat. As she was feeding her infant, another patron came up to her and not asked, but demanded her to cover up. Mary, who witnessed the interaction between her friend and the other patron, then began nursing her child in solidarity. The two mothers breastfed in protest when the employee of the pool asked the women to cover up or relocate to the locker room. After refusing to move or cover up, the pool employee called the local police. When the women were approached by the police officer, Stephanie explained to him she knew she had the right to breastfeed anywhere she needed to. The officer explained this was true, but the pool establishment also had the right to ask them to leave. The women left, but over the following weekend, dozens of fellow moms showed up to the Mara pool, standing together with Stephanie and Mary in protest outside of the establishment, and all nursing their children. Eventually, the outpouring response to the incident induced an apology from the Mara pool. The incident in Mora, Minnesota is not an uncommon occurrence for women who choose to breastfeed in public places. Breastfeeding, which is as natural as it comes, has become such a controversial subject. When and where a mother chooses to feed her child should be her own decision. While there are laws to protect breastfeeding mothers, that does not stop others from shaming and embarrassing them. There are many incidents of mothers being kicked out of establishments for simply feeding their hungry child. While there have been advancements made in this subject, there is still a long way to go. Mothers should not have to worry if feeding their child in public is going to cause a problem. Mothers should not have to fear punishment or embarrassment for providing the most natural nutrients to their hungry baby. While some women are taking a stand for breastfeeding mothers, more people need to get involved. Why is breastfeeding a hungry baby such a problem to people? Should this not be a normal occurrence? It has been done since the beginning of time. It was not until the 19th century that bottle feeding was introduced. There is very little evidence of alternative feeding for babies other than breastfeeding from the mother or a wet nurse until bottle feeding became available. So why is breastfeeding a controversial subject these days? For one, the sexualization of breasts has become more common. Companies have figured out that sex sells, and that has become an important sales tactic. We see half-clothed women advertised on television, movies, magazines, and on social media all the time. Seeing almost topless women on these advertisements and in the entertainment business has become more natural than viewing a mother nursing her child. Someone might say, well, why doesn't the mother just cover up? Or why doesn't she feed her baby in the bathroom? I say, why don't you put a hot blanket over your head while you're eating lunch today? Why don't you go sit in the dirty bathroom stall and enjoy your lunch? Asking a mother to feed her child in a hot car or in a dirty bathroom or to cover up is not okay. Just as it is not okay to ask someone of a different race or religion to eat someplace else. The fear and anxiety some mothers face when deciding if breastfeeding is right for them should not involve others' opinions and judgments, but that's what we are seeing happening. There are many things that can be done to reverse the negative views of public breastfeeding. First thing that can be done is to educate. Rather than trying to fix the problems after the fact, we can begin to educate children on this natural occurrence, explaining to adolescents that breasts are not sexual objects, they are natural and healthy resources of nutrients for babies. Even adults can be educated on this subject. There have been many new federal and state laws set in place protecting the rights of mothers who breastfeed in public. According to the National Conference of State Legislatures website, all 50 states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands have laws that specifically allow women to breastfeed in public or any private location. 36 states exempt breastfeeding from public indecency laws, and at least 29 states have laws related to breastfeeding in the workplace. However, there are only 6 states that have implemented development of breastfeeding awareness education campaigns. The continuous movement toward more laws protecting nursing mothers is a key source to normalizing breastfeeding in public. But without the development of breastfeeding awareness and education, we will not be able to break the stigma of public breastfeeding. Other simple things that can be done to help with the battle of normalizing breastfeeding in the public are things like establishing Establishments setting in place specialized areas for breastfeeding mothers, safe places where a nursing mother can go and feel comfortable openly feeding her child without judgment. These public nursing rooms are a great source to mothers who have the ability to use them, but circumstances differ from person to person. There are many reasons a nursing mother might be unable to exclude herself and take time to relocate to another location to breastfeed her child. So even with the advancement in place in these public nursing rooms, you do not apply to all nursing mothers. Education and awareness is key to truly moving forward. With the strides that have been made for women's rights, placing shame on women who breastfeed just sets us back. A woman should have the right to freely and openly feed her child whenever and wherever she would like. After all, it is her body, her child, so it is her choice. Changing views towards breastfeeding now would impact the future of breastfeeding. Shaming mothers for breastfeeding in public hold these mothers back in many areas from their work to their social lives. The lack of support causes mothers to feel like breastfeeding would be too much, so they choose to bottle feed instead. Whereas if there was support, a mother might choose to breastfeed rather than bottle feed. Advocating for breastfeeding mothers by providing and enforcing laws protecting breastfeeding mothers is a great start to normalizing breastfeeding, especially in public places. There are many organizations and groups putting in work to accomplish these goals, and more people need to join them or support them in their efforts. Education and awareness is key. Even just using your voice, standing up for a mother who is facing an unjust situation while breastfeeding. Do not just sit there and watch. Take action and speak up. The future of our mothers, sisters, aunts, wives, and our children depend on it.
Good.